Hey, this is Matt Vojek, and this is the Creating Business Podcast. Each episode, I sit down and talk to a guest from the creative industries of advertising and marketing about work they've done for a business and their thought process behind all their decisions. By digging deep into projects and the decisions made, we unearth new insights and ideas about creating amazing work that moves the needle for businesses. This is the Creating Business Podcast. Alright, so the project in question this week is Lucky Pickle by Eric and Todd. Now, this project I first saw whenever we were at an awards show. They walked in with these bright red coats that were pretty much from the 80s, I think. Made quite a scene by those, but they ended up winning Best in Show for this Lucky Pickle project, and that was kind of a little awakening to what these guys are doing and seeing some more of the really special work that they're working on. And, taking a look at this project, it's just super smart. If I had to describe these guys in one word, it's just smart. They really think about the things that they are doing, and they make decisions that I think that a lot of people might be uncomfortable making, but they make those decisions anyway. And I think it really shows in this Lucky Pickle project. All right, cool. Let's get into it. All right, so I'm here with Eric and Todd, and we're going to talk about Lucky Pickle. Yeah?
All right, we sure are.
Unless you guys want to talk about something else.
No, that's cool. No, we can start there.
Yeah, good. All right, so let's dive into the first question. Basically, I want to talk about kind of the output of what you guys actually made for that Lucky Pickle project, and then we'll kind of go back from there. So,
sure.
Go ahead.
Well, we made a lot of stuff. We made a logo.
For Lucky Pickle, it started with I guess we have the identity. We have website assets that are supporting that, whether it be like social assets, illustrations. We ended up rolling that into the physical space has a menu board.
That we designed.
Apparel.
Animated neon.
We ended up making an animation. We were going to have
we made an animation, but we also made a neon sign that was physically animating.
Right.
Which is cool. Yeah. Here's a baby hand using chopsticks.
Yeah, it goes back and forth it clamps down the pickle. It's hard to represent in a photo for our website. And then, let me think, we also had an animation of the different kind of cast of characters. So each of the, dumplings, and then there's some other pieces have their own illustration. And then we were going to have a comic book series that was tied to that as well, but that hasn't come to light yet. But
maybe
we'll
a cartoon series.
Cartoon series.
And then creative directed photography.
Right.
And then all the great touch points that you get with sort of an American Chinese restaurant with our spin on it. So to-go boxes, chopsticks, and then a merch line. It was great. Everything.
So they kind of let us go. Sorry, we're rambling. The pieces were. It was all over the place.
So, at the beginning of the project, did they give you a list of things, and they're like, "We need all these things."
I feel like everyone has an idea. They're like, all we need is napkins, menus, and this thing, and then they end up being like, "Oh, can you do this, and this too?" So we ended up doing a lot of other pieces. So I think initially they just thought the brand, the menu, and then a couple pieces
I wish we would have brought the original scope document, but I think it started out very high level, sort of just get the doors open, but the team there and the owner specifically, Jacob, is just really inspired and really creative. And so as we would throw out ideas, he would be like, yes, let's do that, or he'd be sort of looking at research of old fast food, kind of like the McDonald's furry kind of guys. What is that called?
They're called critters.
Critters.
That's what they called them in the 80s. The critters.
And he'd be like, we should do a kids series kind of like video thing. And we just started exploring all this stuff. Like, some of it we got paid for, some of it we just had a lot of fun working on, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why that project just evolved into this massive.
Yeah, I think we just had fun actually talking to them about different ways this could come to life. And we're like, yeah, we could do an animation too. Like, I don't really know what you'll use that for, but but it ended up being used in the space itself. So I think just like when we initially had meetings with them, it was just fun. So we just kept coming up with more stuff to apply it to.
Yeah. So before we kind of go too far down there, let's go really far back now. I mean, I guess we kind of already touched on it a little bit, but like talk about whenever the project kind of first came up.
Sure.
Like I guess you were talking a little bit already about like what they kind of wanted, but anything else you can talk about from like those first like kind of few days that you kind of knew about this?
I think
for me, the jarring thing was that Jacob's Pickle Hospitality is this group in the Upper West Side. They have a lot of restaurants. I guess, they have like 3 restaurants, but they're a lot bigger. They kind of target this like very brunchy millennial crowd. They're kind of, from a menu perspective, they really go over the top as far as like, 12-layer chocolate cake and the biggest French dip you'll ever see in your life.
Especially in New York, where everything's like super small plates and, really like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're really going for, it was just such a large, everything there is so big, it's crazy. Yeah. But the food's amazing at those restaurants.
Did you guys know about this place before you started working?
I knew of Jacob's Pickles and Maison Pickle because it's just kind of like a known restaurant there. But, I mean, people went there for brunch and stuff. They're kind of like big in that crowd. But we didn't know like the owner at all, or that they were going to be doing these other things.
Yeah, so we got contacted by like a friend of a friend, a mutual friend, I guess.
Yeah, we work with a PR agent who works with them.
Yeah, and they approached us and we're just like, they're opening sort of an American Chinese inspired spot, but with sort of that like their own take on it. So when that happened, I mean, Todd and I were instantly like, this sounds great, but we had no idea that it was going to go the way it did, which was really fun.
Yeah, we, let's see, the dumplings are actually like Asian dumplings, but they have flavors from English and French cuisine. So it's really weird. It's very different, but it's really good. And we went out to the Maison Pickle, one of the restaurants, and sampled some of their food there and then some of the stuff at Lucky Pickle, and we're like, oh my gosh, like this is a dream.
Yeah.
But
so from start to end, how long did the project kind of take?
Man,
I want to say from a branding perspective, maybe like 2 months to get that initial identity, but then the construction there, everything in New York just takes a lot longer. So it was in those months that we really did a lot of like the exploration, like once everything was kind of developed.
Yeah, it might have been like 6 to 8 months in
total.
total.
Yeah.
Till we saw like everything was complete, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it came out in waves too, where it's like, they need a certain amount just to launch the restaurant. It's expensive to have real estate in New York, so they just need to open and start selling stuff. And so it's just like whatever we can get to make sure that everything's running smoothly and looks good. And then it's like, what are our other pieces going after that?
But I think overall our initial vibes were excited, nervous, but like not that we can't do it. We're just like, the New York food scene is so vastly different than like anything we have happening in the Midwest, and it's from a sheer point of like, they have 20 great, amazing restaurants opening like every weekend. So every sort of restaurateur there, anyone worth their weight, understands the importance of branding and like experience design and crafting memorable experiences, because that's almost as important as the food. Like the food will be good. It has to be to play it at that league,
For sure.
But it's that sort of like that next level.
The brand and the PR and all of that really has to be great too, just to get people in there and like excited about it.
So one of the big questions I have right off the bat here, like maybe this is a difficult question, but
sure.
Why? So New York is obviously known as the design capital of the world. Why do you think that they didn't hire somebody in New York to do this?
That's an awesome question.
That's a good question. Well, I think pretty much all of our projects that we work on have happened because we've known someone, they've introduced us to someone else. And I think that's what's happened here too. It's, we work with a PR guy that has a bunch of different companies he works with, and he's his specialty is like restaurants and bars and things like that. And he introduced us to this project.
Yeah, and I don't think we explicitly market ourselves this way, but we've perceived it because clients and have also told us this in New York, but they think because we're Midwestern, we're like really hardworking, and
right.
And I
You're
don't
like,
think,
I'm not.
I don't think we're any more hardworking than anyone
true.
else. But there's like this perception of that, and we will
That's
gladly.
It's almost like we're exotic in New York, because we're so just like
very
middle of America.
Yeah, I mean, and that was weird, but I think also Jacob had worked with New York designers, and he was just looking for collaborators or people that were excited, and I mean we just were. I mean, that's Todd and I all day just sort of like bounce dumb ideas off of each other, and then when Jacob got into the fold, that's pretty much what he was doing. And I think instead of being like, that's a stupid idea, which is easy to do with clients, we were like, oh, that would be really fun,
Yeah.
And
we basically have a mentality of like, if something is funny, if like we laugh about it, it must be a good idea, so we should just do it.
Yeah, it was a true collaboration with them. I think that was like the way we positioned ourselves from the beginning. Like not as your designers, like where we're just going to give you stuff and that's what you get, but like as collaborators,
I think that's really interesting that you say that. Like, they could have gone to anybody and said, like, maybe they said like, all right, I had this ridiculous idea about a little dumpling, whatever. And most people probably would have been like, no, we're not doing that. That's going to be terrible.
Right.
But I think that there's definitely something to that idea of trying to be creative with what they're saying and still make it match what you want to do, and then make it match what they're expecting or hope to happen.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like, they were a perfect match for us as far as like crazy ideas like that. Like, we should have brought some of the first rounds of things, and we'll send it to you afterwards.
Yeah.
There's like a first round where we had a pickle, a hand holding a chopstick, holding a pickle, and Jacob was like, yeah, this is awesome. Can you put in my baby's hand holding the chopstick, holding the pickle? And then he sent us a picture of his baby's hand. Like, yeah, we can do that. Like, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very weird, but
I think initially, like, our thought was like, really? But then we thought, this is just so weird and hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like that kind of sums up the relationship where we were just like, yeah, that's even funnier. Like, we just kept doubling down on the jokes.
Yeah. Too far sometimes. We had to pull back. We were the ones being like, I don't know if that's too crazy.
Yeah, but I would just say the team there just got us excited. Like, they were when you hear of a dumpling concept in New York, kind of championed by Americans, it's like, well, there's a lot of amazing Asian food there, obviously. But then when we started talking to him and understood where he was approaching it from, sort of his like 90s and late 80s upbringing and all of that like great inspiration in that world he was trying to build, we were just like, yes, because that's the stuff we love too.
Yeah, and the fact that he's just genuinely, and their entire team is genuinely excited about the stuff they're doing. It doesn't really matter, what it is. It's going to end up feeling successful or feeling right because they're excited about it. And same thing for design. I think you can tell in people's projects when they're like jazzed on something that it ends up being more, more exciting to see too, more successful for sure.
For sure. Can you guys talk about a little bit more of, so the project's going on, you met with them. Talk a little bit more about some of the inspirations that you kind of gathered.
Yeah. So we had an initial meeting where we went out there, and we went up there in the Upper West Side. We went up and ate brunch with them at Maison Pickle, and we ate so much food. It was like we were so sick too, like full.
Yeah.
They just kept feeding us more and more food, including the dumplings. And when we were in that meeting, we had they had pulled a bunch of images of inspiration themselves, and then we also did as well, and we kind of sat through and looked at all that stuff together. Some of the things in the first round, I think that Eric and I had kind of had this idea of it being inspired loosely by traditional Asian takeout restaurants in New York.
American
Asian, yeah.
Yeah.
So like dumpling restaurants to go and stuff like that, where it's just like there's sort of, it doesn't have to be Asian. It could be any takeout restaurant in New York at the time. I feel like there's like something about the fact that there's not a lot of thought put into things. Like it just needs to happen, that it ends up having a certain look to it. And that was kind of like, all right, we need to look at that as inspiration.
Yeah, there's no irony there. Like we walked around on that trip and just took pictures of like in Chinatown, and there's truly, it's just like, oh, this is the sign that we needed, and the kerning's all messed up, and like the letters are all weird, and it's just yellow and red, and we were like, that's like like that little like error, that little like tight kerning just on this one part of the word. That's like the most beautiful thing. That's like the most beautiful aspect of this. And it's like, how do we emulate that idea of just,
It ended up being where we kind of went more down a path of 80s, 90s critters more than we did with that initial stuff. But I think that was like what initially informed our design for the first pass. And
like I just remember we talked about the calendar menus.
Oh yeah, we had one
like the Zodiac calendar kind of menus. We were just like, that's I think where the critter idea came from.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
We should have a different character for every menu item, and so it was just like a fun, it was totally, we were free to just kind of throw stuff out there.
Yeah, they kind of mostly were just, the reference that they pulled was a lot of like imagery, colors, things like that. They weren't necessarily about the brand, and from that we were able to kind of like just run with it and go wherever we wanted. And then there was a lot with that project, more than most. There's a lot more iteration after the first phase where we were kind of working back and forth to get to the final idea.
Yeah.
So one of the first parts of it that we presented to was the one of the concepts that we had. I think there were like 3 or 4 in the first round. Had the Pickle riding a shrimp, and from that they were like, "We love that. We want to do that, but more." So we ended up kind of like evolving that more and more and more. So. And it had a different style to it initially. It was like more sketched, but we went sort of toward this like, I don't know, monoline illustration style that allowed us to kind of like really have fun with the characters.
Yeah. Were you guys ever like nervous at all during this process of like just, I don't know, I guess all the cliches that are out there with Chinese restaurants and stuff like that?
Yeah, like cultural appropriation and things like that.
Yeah, there's that, yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I think that, we approached it with this like really deep respect for those people, and for, like I said, there's no irony. Like those people are making incredible food. They're not really worried about becoming this huge restaurant. They're just, they themselves aren't worried about curating a brand or anything like that. They're just making the food that they love for, hopefully loyal and good customers. And I think knowing where Jacob's from, the owner, I think we just approached it with this like, I hope it came across as sort of a nod to like how great and how much we love that what they're doing.
I think the takeout culture in New York too is like more of the inspiration than it was necessarily a certain genre within that.
Yeah.
And so
but luckily their dumplings, like Todd was saying, there's a lot of like bouillon, like French inspiration happening there. So it didn't feel, it's more fusiony in general. So we tried to be, subtle, I think, with a lot of it.
Right.
So
I don't know what we.
But yeah, we had conversations about it, but
for sure we did discuss it a lot, and with them as well, so that we would make sure we weren't.
That's
crossing any lines.
That's what I feel like would be a really difficult thing with having like a sense of humor about it, where you're like, is this appropriate? Like, you'd have to be like looking around.
Tricky.
Somebody tell me if this is wrong.
I think that's where like designing our own cast of characters and sort of like taking it out of like this world a little bit was helpful for us.
Yeah, for sure. I think it ended up not being so inspired by that kind of Asian dumpling world as it is already, and more being like 80s, 90s.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think like as we got farther into the branding, it was like, I'm not worried about this being, offensive or something like that. But yeah, we certainly thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going through some of the iterations, was there any like big, maybe failures or big things that you're like, nope, can't do that, or anything along those lines?
Trying to think, the original spicy dumpling.
So
we still ended up with like a Satan pig for the spicy dumpling.
Well, I think it was just a pig with horns.
Oh yeah. But I initially wanted a pentagram on its head,
it did go all right. There was at one point. I don't know which
work.
person on the Pickle
really
team suggested this, but there were a lot of iterations of the pickle riding the shrimp. We initially had him being a little more like cowboy-like. He had some other elements to him. At one point, it was suggested by someone on their team that we could turn, right now the stem is at the top of his head, that we could turn that down and have the stem be at the bottom and that he's holding it. And we were like, I don't know if that's a good idea.
That's a lot. That's like a multi-level innuendo there, because it's like the pickle itself is already pretty phallic.
Yeah, we ended up having I feel like we didn't even realize some of the stuff until we had it on. Like we're wearing the shirt. It was like, oh, is the pickle in front of the cat? Like, is that meant to be phallic?
Yeah.
Like, I guess it is.
Yeah. Some funny unintentional failures was that Todd and I spent a ton of time trying to figure out. So we designed all the graphics for their menu board.
Oh yeah.
And then they were like, well, can you guys just design the menu board also? And we were like, we thought it was just going to be the standard thing that we found that you could just slide in these tiles, And they're like, we want to do something custom. So we spent a lot of time designing it. And then it was built by some kind of shoddy contractor.
Yeah, we had all the type was set. Really, we were trying to get into this style of imperfection was the inspiration. They ended up completely resetting all the type. And it looks like it was perfect. It perfectly not good.
Now it's in Arial and it's some's all caps, but it's actually so funny.
It's so much better. It's so much better than we could have done.
We walked in there and we're like, okay, this is pretty great.
Yeah, some of the slides are red type instead of just black type.
Yeah, so it's little things like that when they actually came out, at first we were kind of furious, or the animated neon hand. I think it took months for them to get the speed right, but when they first turned it on, it was super fast, and we're like, oh my gosh, don't do that.
A lot of things too, we should give a lot of credit, obviously, definitely to Jacob and his team, and the menu board specifically. We had this idea for the neon being chopsticks going back and forth, and then when we got there, we saw that he had it kind of modeled after the McDonald's from Times Square, where it has all these vertical red neon bars, and it was it's a lot, but it's but it's perfect too. They really do have a really nice sense of how to bring authenticity into things. I mean, definitely they have an authentic intention behind things, but or genuine intention behind things. But the we've been working on with them on another project where it's a bulb sign, a bunch of light bulbs, and he's like, I want some of the light bulbs to be different colors, some of them to be burnt out, and maybe some of them to just be smashed out. We're like, okay, we can do that, I guess.
I mean, that's something we would never think about, but when you hear that, it's oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And so I guess that's why this project was, even the accidents or the failures were weirdly embraced, which was just so liberating for us. I mean, this is our first big project from when we went out on our own, I would say too. So to have that sort of publicly, to have that sort of weird support system of just we were just playing the whole time. So I don't think, even when we failed, I don't think it was ever looked at it as a failure, and I don't think we ever really felt.
I think we'd also initially, this would just be a logistical issue, was we had this takeout box. It was the Chinese takeout box, but it was something about how when it stacks up, it's not great for deliveries. I don't know, but we ended up having to go with a plastic container, but we ended up using a sticker on it, and it kind of worked well because we were able to create more characters that we could put the sticker on top of, so you could identify different flavors of dumpling or noodles.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing with working with restaurants in general. It's just the amount of changes that quickly. It's kind of every restaurant new concept opens as it's a test, right? And they'll change things, drop menu items, change packaging, on the fly those first couple weeks. That was
there must be there was definitely terrifying. A learning curve to working with restaurants for sure.
So kind of taking a little sidestep here.
Yeah, that's cool.
One of the things that I find to be just really fascinating about both of you is how much you embrace kind of comedy. into multiple aspects of what you do, and I'll get more into that in just a second. But like, do you guys consider yourselves to be like funny people? is that a weird question?
I don't know that I ever thought about it as being like, am I a funny person? We love comedy, like love comedians and everything, all of that stuff, and just making each other laugh. I don't know.
I think that
funny people.
I think that some people may find us funny, but I think we are the funniest when we are just collaborating together, and like that's sort of the basis of this relationship is like just what's the most ridiculous idea that makes us laugh, and like, okay, well, how do we make that sort of thing? So I think we find humor in the same things, and it's our goal as designers to not, I mean, we definitely take our craft seriously for sure, but there's a lot of like the sort of stereotypes of designers that we don't actively reject because we love all of that stuff too, but we also just try to have fun. Like, that's why we got into this. It's sort of like we are building Legos. It's like the same reason you built Legos as a kid, or painted, or Todd sketched letters in his notebook, or Nike shoes, or whatever. Yeah. It's just like we are constantly trying to hang on to that feeling.
Yeah, we have like a list of really dumb ideas for businesses and just like things in general that will never come to light, probably most of them, but I think it's just, I don't know, anytime we can make ourselves laugh about it, we try to, and then just continue doing that, like riffing on that idea until it's like, all right, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Like this project was specifically validating of that, and like freeing, because we had felt certainly stifled, like as at our sort of old jobs, we felt like we weren't able to bring our personality or our like unique perspective into the work. And so to get this project, it was like, not only were we able to do that, but people also responded to it, which just made us realize we should keep doing that. You know, because we're on clearly what we find funny, other people are connecting to. So it's like,
I guess the reason I asked that question is because, you know, when I'm asking about inspirations, you guys are talking about like things that are funny and stuff like that. It seems like comedy plays a big part of your inspiration. Yeah. Especially on that project anyway.
Oh, it absolutely does. I think comedy, I think like just world building in general, like things like Disney World or any brands that can just immerse you, you know, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, well, I feel like, I don't know why this would be more broadly about comedy too. I feel like comedians are so honest, and it's part of their job, obviously, but it's, I don't know, there aren't that many people that are allowed to be that honest and introspective and publicly too. So hearing that and like, you know, being a fan of that, I think if we can try to do that, we end up just doing that because it's like, you know, inspiring. So I think it ends up coming into our work.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of podcasts. I'd say like 90% comedy, 10% true crime.
You guys listen to Conan's podcast?
I love it. I love it so much, man.
It's great.
It really is.
So much.
Damn it, I don't know where I was going with the next one. It was a really good question, I promise you that.
We can get back to it.
Yeah, we'll find it.
It's disappointing. I'm not going to edit any of this out just to
shame
myself.
What was the last question you asked us?
If inspiration, or if comedy plays a role in your inspiration for things. Oh, I remember. Oh, this is good. Yes. All right, here we go. You guys ready?
So I actually preferred the gap because now I'm really like,
they're really like
anxious.
All right. Do you or have you ever tried to pitch any sort of ideas rooted in comedy and the client doesn't find it funny at all?
Let me think. I'm sure we have.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of just like bombs, if you will. I'm trying to think. Oh man, we can't name the specific project.
Which one?
Wait.
No,
it was from before we went out on our own.
I'm gonna try to guess it from.
So Todd came back. Todd came back from New York. And was working at a place we used to work at, and Todd and I, you know, went to school. You don't know this, but we went to school together and like lived together, and had always been like collaborating and kind of like pushing each other. And so when Todd came back from New York and we started to work together, we got assigned a project to develop concepts for this brand, which we had actually talked about before we were rolling. We stayed up late and were like just going all out crazy. And I wouldn't say it was funny, but it was weird.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, like we had a lot of fun with it, and it was super weird for especially like this city and this space. And when we presented it,
just being so vague.
Yeah, we presented it, and our work was called masturbatory. It was called like self-serving and sort of like weird for the sake of being weird. And Todd and I both looked at each other and were like, yeah, it is. And then we were like, that's what we should do all the time.
Yeah, and like it'll work because it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And that was like the project, though. That was honestly the tipping, that like feedback and that project was the tipping point for us being like, we need to get out on our own. Because we had a blast doing it, and we could sense, like, if we were able to sell that project, we think we could have for sure. So that was like big for us.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I don't know that like the expression of a brand isn't always like the audience isn't always going to be. It's not always going to be right for it to be funny. So we don't often do work that's that funny necessarily. So, but I think like when we're having fun with it and laughing internally on some things, I think it ends up being good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know have we had any other like fails like that are funny?
Oh, we have.
We have a lot of fails.
Plenty of fails, but I don't know.
All right. Well, let me go here then.
That is a good question, though.
So, it's 2018, Creative Best.
Mm-hmm.
You guys show up wearing matching coats.
Yeah.
Go.
Dream since high school.
Oh yeah,
we
that's
love
true.
Coaching jackets in general.
Yeah, we really do.
And one of our goals is to sponsor a Little League team.
Yeah, we've been trying to sponsor a Little League team.
The Eric and Todd.
If anyone knows how to do that, we don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
We'll buy them jerseys.
Yeah, we'll buy the jerseys, and
we'll
they will
show
look
up.
Sweet, dude. They will be the most decked out.
Yeah, really nice.
Mm-hmm. And we don't have kids. We don't even have kids. We just silent.
We'll show up and like attend a game or the championship because they'll for sure win.
Yeah, but we see our collaboration as like a partnership. We see our studio now as a team, and those jackets were just something we had honestly always talked about, and for some reason it was funny to us to like, as branders and brand builders, we thought that we should like embrace that for ourselves and have like a uniform. We were always inspired by like the Interbrand, like how they used to.
Unimark.
Unimark.
They used to wear like lab coats
in like the 50s and 60s, which we were like, that is.
It's badass, but it's also so funny. Like,
why
would they just for them to? All right, I was thinking about this recently. I feel like I have. Maybe I'm having a little bit of a design crisis, but I have no connection in my I feel no connection to like Massimo Vignelli and the people that we were taught to love, because it's like, was he having any fun with the stuff he was doing? But I mean, I'm sure he was, and obviously that's not what was asked of a lot of the projects. But I do think it's like, in an attempt to be very serious, it's very funny to wear a lab coat every day to work. You're not working with anything that's going to splash up on you.
It's functionally, it makes no sense. Especially the Massimo, form, function.
Yeah. It had exactly. It had no purpose. But anyways, so I think we always thought too, it's like, if you're not having fun, what are we doing? If we're not having fun, it's like, we're never going to be rock stars in that in that sense, where we get to get up on a stage and be like, what up, Detroit, or whatever, and just like wear insane outfits. So it's like, maybe we'll just start doing that now and pretend like it's not weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, I do have to say though, so at Creative Best, you guys won Best in Show, is that right, for this project?
That's true.
Right? So you walked up near the stage, right? It wasn't up on the stage, but
yeah, that's true. We got a little bit of that. Thank God we didn't wear jackets and just be like, I don't know. I guess it was better to maybe do well wearing a jacket than not do well. But
it's a good point.
Going out on our own has been just our success has been measured in these really like stupid sort of achievements. Like the first big expense we had was a Costco executive membership, which I'm not
really
sure. I'm not sure is the difference between executive.
You get
and normal.
nothing more.
You can get in there at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You get in early.
I'm pretty sure that's how Sam's Club is anyway.
But that was like a big one. And then these jackets, we're just crossing off like dumb things that we've always wanted.
But now we I feel like it's hard to get people to buy into that idea. I feel like we give we give employees like these jackets. When you make employee status, they're like not as jazzed as we are sometimes on it. But that's fine.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was just one of those things we didn't think about other than it just made us laugh, you know? And it's like, I mean...
Also,
it's just so stupid. Like, we probably looked... I think, if anything, we were probably self-conscious while wearing them. Like, oh, should we have done this? Or do we look like assholes?
That's why I say, like, I feel like, for me, I'm like, I think of these funny ideas.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
Yeah, you just have to...
I don't know if I could do that.
Is it too much? There's two of us, so we get the benefit of just being like, whatever.
I know exactly. We had this conversation during the jacket thing. Or it might have been after, but we kind of talked about what we think is funny. So Will Ferrell, I believe, was on Conan's podcast. It's like the first one.
Yeah,
and
that's
he talked
such
about
a good one.
how like... Will Ferrell is so funny because even if he's doing something that bombs, he just like doubles down so it gets like terribly unfunny, and then it goes back to being like the funniest thing because he just won't not commit. And that's kind of how we felt about the jackets of like we're just gonna, even if we're internally feeling a little self-conscious, we're just gonna own, like pretend like these are our lab coats, like these are us, you know.
And I feel like because we've worked on, well, now that we're out working for ourselves, we've seen parts of this city that like we would never go to otherwise, just for like either clients have offices in weird locations or we have to go somewhere for production, like, you know, printing and all that. And that was one of them. It was like finding the embroiderer that's gonna like get these jackets, and we just drop them off. Like, can you do this? And I was like, I would say that's as far as vendors go, we definitely have the most diverse and like weird vendor set. Probably we're like good friends with a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of elderly women and gentlemen, weird embroiderers that just do whatever they want. Like, it's a blast. We love it. We love those relationships.
Awesome. So I mean, that kind of. I mean, you guys started talking about a little bit about kind of how you got started together. How long have you been like kind of officially in business together?
It's like 2.5 years ish.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah,
roughly. Yeah.
So, I guess a couple things. When did you guys make that decision, and how did you make that decision?
We've been working on projects together for a long time. Actually, I was laughing about this. We were laughing about this earlier because. In school, we lived together, and we would take on freelance projects for bars and different companies and stuff that was just like easy. We got paid like so little, it was almost a joke. I remember when we were like, we got paid after working for like probably 4 months on a project we got a combined $500.
Hey.
And we were like dancing around like, we've got all the money in the world, you all suck. Anyways, and then but it's so funny to look back, but I think it's like we've been working on projects together for a long time. But then let's see, I moved to Columbus, and then we worked together at the same studio. Eric got me a job at the studio he worked at, and we were there for about a year. During that time, having a lot of conversations about, you know, what it would be like if we ended up having our own studio. And then we decided at some point to take that seriously and work every night and weekend on that. And
it was after we were called masturbatory.
Yeah, after that.
It was called masturbatory.
That's the point at which we decided to work every night and weekend on it. So we would basically like pick up clients and work on nights and weekends until we had enough that we were like, all right, for 3 months or whatever, that was our initial thought, was like, we could work for 3 months off of the money that we've saved up, and then if at that point it doesn't work, we'll get another job. But like that didn't end up happening. Instead, it was that we were taking on work that we couldn't get done in the amount of time that we had, so we were like, all right, we don't have a choice, we have to do this, and if we don't do it now, we'll probably never make this.
Yeah, and I would say picking up clients makes it sound like we just had clients.
Right. That's not. Yeah. That's
like one of the first nights we met seriously after work to work. We drove out to get a whiteboard and to write down sort of like our goals, and
we got the whiteboard from a guy in like Dublin.
Yeah, around here, and we were going to write like our client list down, and then we quickly realized we don't have one, so we just like racked our emails and our brains for every person we knew. And in fact, this is how bad it was, the guy we bought the whiteboard from asked why we bought it, and he said, "Oh, I might need a website," and so we like emailed that guy back. So it was like ridiculous.
Through the Craigslist post.
So that was your business development strategy.
Yeah,
it was
like
whiteboards everywhere.
It was like some girl that graduated with us. It's doing like better than us in her job. We're like, oh, she'll hook us up.
Mm-hmm.
Like that never happened. I don't know why we're so dumb. It was like the list is embarrassing. We have a photo of it as well where it's just like, this is so funny.
Yeah, but I think our goal was not to have like, we didn't put the pressure on ourselves to be this like huge studio. We were just like, we just need those 3 months of kind of security for us to explore. That's why we were working and emailing everyone, because that was the goal at that time. It was just like, once we get there, then we'll worry about the next thing. And luckily it worked out.
So how long did it take then from when you guys decided to like, we're done, to all of a sudden you're starting
We thought it'd take a year at least, and it took about 2.5 months. Yeah, just wild.
Yeah, it was wild. It was probably 3, two total.
Because we think we started in February.
Yeah, maybe it was.
And then we left in May.
Yeah.
So not that long, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, and it was. I've had something to say, but I completely forgot.
Well, we literally we landed our first like retainer client,
right?
And we were at work, so we put together this proposal. And we're like, this will never go through, and then they were like, yes, and that retainer was essentially like our salaries that we were making, and so it was. Literally at work, we were like, okay, we have to leave tomorrow. Like, we have to leave because we're signed on now.
Right, so we can't get this time done. The other thing that was funny, actually, I was remembering, is that before we got to the point where we were like, all right, let's do our, like, this studio thing full time at night and on the weekends, we decided to do a podcast ourselves called Winging It, and it's a chicken wing review podcast.
Yet to be released.
We recorded 8 episodes and never released it. We would take our friends to different restaurants that we'd maybe been to or never been to, and we'd try every flavor of chicken wing that they have on the menu, and then we'd go back to Eric's apartment and talk about it, review them, and then talk about life as well. And we did like 8 of them, as well as like we did a special like buffalo turkey for Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and we're like, all right, if we can spend our time doing this, which ended up taking a lot more time than we thought, like we could just instead take that same amount of time and energy and put it into our own studio, and maybe something will come of that too. So
yeah, we really held each other accountable, which was crazy. Like now I think about it and I don't know if we could do it again. I mean, we could. Anyone can do it.
Sure, yeah.
But the fact that we actually committed to like working after work is kind of insane to think about now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so that's sort of what I was going to ask you next is, I feel like it takes being a bit naive to be able to jump ship and do this thing.
Yeah. For sure.
And like, if people, I always say this, like if people knew how hard it was, then most people probably just wouldn't do it to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's one of those things that we think about a lot because it never felt difficult because we loved it so much, and we still do. We love it so much, and not even just the work, but like the time. We're so interested in people and their passions, like so our clients, for example, and so that's always been really fun to us. But yeah, if you think too long about it, you will talk yourself out of it, for sure. And I think just because we had each other, we could be like, there was definitely days where both of us were like, what are we doing? Yeah. And then the other person was just like, no, like, why are you thinking that way? Like, let's just keep moving.
I don't know, on my own, it would never have happened, for sure. But I do think the other thing that I remember someone saying to me, they were like, oh, it's so risky, I could never do that. But it's also like, if you don't think, it's kind of a joke, right? It is just as risky to stay at a job you're working at because you could get fired at any time.
Yeah.
In fact, it might be less risky. Certainly other people have overhead. We're fortunate that in a creative business we don't have much overhead other than our computers and the cost of programs and stuff like that. But if you work for yourself, you do have, things aren't going well, you're holding the steering wheel, you can right the ship. But, when you're working somewhere else, you're just told that everything's fine. Yep. You don't really have a role in every part of it to know whether that's true or not. So I think I lied to myself telling myself that. It might not be true. Maybe it is safer to work somewhere else, but maybe that like helped me sleep at night.
I tell people that all the time where, anytime that I talk to people and they're like, oh, I don't want to do it because it's too big of a risk right now. And it's like, well, it's going to be hard. I can tell you that much. But at the same time, like if you think that staying at your job is like the safe thing, like,
right.
I think that, I don't know, I guess there's certain people. For people like myself, I'm like, I would so much rather bet on myself than anybody else.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
I would rather bet on myself than the stock market. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Sure.
Like if I have that option anyway.
It's not much, it's a different skill set. And a lot of people are like, you either have it or you don't. I think that it's not much different than teaching yourself a program or like, learning After Effects or whatever it is, coding. You just have to learn a different skill set of how to sell, how to sell yourself and how to get people to buy into what you're into, really. And I think it's not like selling in the shady, like gross sense of like, I'm going to say it's just being, making someone's day a little bit easier and offering some value and understanding.
At the same time, that was some of the, I don't know, like for me, I've been full-time on my own for a little over 5 years, I think now.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was making those mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I had to do it. Like it didn't matter what anyone else said. So like
Yep.
I'm sitting there licking envelopes and like sending little like brochures to people, and then nobody contacted me back. I'm like, okay, doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
iterating.
that's true.
It's iterating
Yeah, it
until you try a million different things. You write a bunch of weird names on your whiteboard and send them all emails and then go like, that didn't work. So now what do I have to do? It's exactly what Todd said. It's pivoting all the time.
Yeah.
There is like, I think also a level of like, this has to happen, that has to be there, that dedication to like, whatever people could do anything. Anyone could do this. I feel like they just have to fully decide that they're going to do it, because it takes time and that's it, it takes time and energy and that's it really.
For sure.
But maybe that's the backed up by like, we have experience and things and whatever, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like, I feel myself like, I don't have anything special. Like anyone could do this, but maybe that's wrong, but I don't know.
It's getting dark and sad now.
No. No, I mean like.
Hey, you have me.
No, I mean like, I definitely think that, I don't think I'm like, people are like, I don't know anyone that says this, but you hear people that are giving like advice to other people and they're like, you're a born entrepreneur or whatever. I was born to be this. I'm like, no, you weren't. You just decided you're going to spend your time on that. Mm-hmm. And then it worked out because you did that. And so that's why I think like everyone can do that. But then I'm like, well, maybe it isn't. Also, not everybody wants that. So it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
All over the place with my thoughts with it. But
I often make the analogy to like music and bands specifically. And I think that like probably 99% of the bands that I really like and listen to are successful just because they were crazy enough to go hit the road and like never stop.
Right.
Relent, like building an audience, sort of this very grassroots, like we're on the road, we're in a different city. Sometimes we play to 10 people, but the next time we come back, we play to 30, and then the next week, and it's like, I just realized it's not really crazy, but it's, as cliche as it sounds, it's like not having that backup plan.
Yeah.
Although I think we did have backup plans, but but you know what I mean? It's just like
our backup plan is like it'll be fine.
Yeah. I think that, so one of the things that I tell some of the students that I have is like to expect to learn a thing and then get like this dream job or to go off on your own and do whatever over the course of 4 years, it's just crazy.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, if you spent 10 years on one goal and one goal only, there is no way you can't be successful.
Exactly.
Like that's just how long it takes. Like most of the time people give up after a year, 3 months, whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you were to be consistent for that long, I find it hard to believe that you just can't find success in the thing that you're doing,
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when we were like in grad school teaching, it was like you would see people who were like freshmen, right, and not fully into the program or like aware of what they want to do, if this is their thing, and if you just, all it was is like, all you got to do is keep trying, it'll work out eventually, like it'll click eventually. Right now it feels like embarrassing because you're doing something that is somewhat a bit of a self-expression, and that's unusual. And it's not really like looking great right now, but it will look great. You just have to keep like working at it. It's like, it just feels, it's not, I don't know, anything's possible.
Yeah. We had a rare sort of Todd and I both think that our parents probably told us we were special too much.
Yeah, we're
because we
delusional.
definitely have
Isn't
an
that everybody in
inflated.
our generation?
Yeah, I guess
How
so.
it goes?
But, man, we really feel like all of our ideas are pretty much great.
Yeah.
And we commit to them probably to, like the jackets, for example. There was like no question. It was just like, that's a great idea.
You didn't think about it until after you put them on, you start seeing other
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when we
Oh
were
my God.
in design school, we lived with two dudes that started Good Fucking Design Advice, which I don't know if it was like a design meme a few years back. But when we were in school there, it kind of like blew up a bit. And these guys were also just like not that much older than us, making really cool stuff and kind of also changing. And so that for us, I think, was inspirational.
Yeah.
You know, taking the skills that we learned or acquired and then being able to like build something out of that and to like watch it from the beginning to where it is now was like, I think, inspiring for me. It got me to realize how to sell creative a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Which they won't teach you in school.
Right. Yeah, that's a real problem. We also had support, like everyone, all of our loved ones. I mean, Eric didn't tell his parents for a while.
They are very supportive now, but I just didn't want to worry.
Right, but everyone, like our significant others and everything, like, you know, supported us for all that, which is crazy too.
Yeah.
So,
I had one goal. I was like, I don't want my parents to worry, and I certainly don't want to ask them for money. And I didn't have to do either, so that was cool.
You're like, and if I do have to ask them for money, at least they don't think that I'm doing a good job.
Like when we left, I'd signed up for Uber just in case.
Yeah, I do remember that.
All the, like literally, I just had all
That's
these.
awesome.
So I did have backup plans. I lied.
I forgot
That Uber driver app would just like haunt me at night. No offense to Uber drivers.
Yeah. So okay, Lucky Pickle.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track here, guys. So you did all this really cool work, and then you release it to them. Kind of what was the response from the client, and I'm not sure if you have any response from anybody at the restaurant or anything like that. But.
Well, the client, I mean, they loved it but it had been like collaborative the entire time, so it wasn't as though anything was necessary.
There wasn't no big reveal or
nothing.
Yeah, it wasn't like
them.
a Don Draper style, like, here's your baby hand with chopsticks. Sadly.
The first pass, though, kind of felt like that, where you're like, especially since with them, we weren't in person to present. We were doing it over a Google Hangout, and, you know, you can't see the reaction. We're like,
that's the downfall.
Do you like it?
Tap on the screen.
Yeah, we're like,
Creativity
did you like it? And they were like, you know, they were really received it positively, which is cool. So nothing was like a surprise there. What was surprising, I think, was the dumplings are amazing. The noodles are really good. But the thing that like blew up for them or made them really like popular, and they were in a bunch of different publications, was that they had pickle flavored ice cream, and they opened up like right at the beginning or end of spring. And it was like all the rage. Everyone was like, you got to go try the pickle ice cream. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. But like, I mean, it's good, but the dumplings are amazing.
That was inspiring to us of like it's crazy to carry pickle ice cream, or so it seems. But that level of weirdness, just that little decision is what is probably like the main pillar of their success.
It really is. Yeah. Well, and I feel like now we've thought about that for other projects we've worked on. It was like, you know, you do have to have a thing that gets people in. It can't just be like, trust me, the food's amazing. You know,
number one best burger in the world.
Right. You can't just say that and expect people to believe it. There has to be something to draw people in, whether that's food or whatever, a graphic or product.
I think the one thing we surprised them with was the cast of characters. So we had like, there was the early pickle shrimp, but then it was kind of like they sent over a list of, we have all these like things we need characters for, after they saw our menu board concept. And like that for us was really fun because it truly was anything goes. Like we were like, okay, noodle bowls, like what if they're dunking basketballs into each other's heads? Like it's just so stupid, you know?
That's true. Let's make the dumplings high five.
When they saw that, they were like, that's the world. And then that's when the idea for the like animation or the comic book came out, which we showed on our website, actually, like a little snippet of like a really lo-fi animation that was sort of the concept, like the first pass at a concept.
It's the one at the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
But we were going to develop, I mean, we had started like Todd and I writing essentially concepts for a series, the extended Pickleverse.
Right. Basically, they're like underneath the Lucky Pickle restaurant, sort of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle style, you know, you can
like Toy Story, like the ingredients come alive and like they were heroes. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it was really dumb, but fun, and they liked it too. But then they just got busy with the next thing and the next thing. So
we also pitched a "It's a Small World" style jingle.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
And
yeah, we haven't done it. They were into it.
Oh my gosh, we haven't done that. I just remember we should do that.
Wait. What was the jingle going to be? Wait, hold on. There was something specifically about the jingle that was like really stupid.
It was like a sing-along. So the 404 page of the website was intended to be, I don't even know.
We were going to write a song that was going to be like, Lucky Pickle, something, and then we were going to have it like animate, like that it would go like a sing-along, but... That hasn't come to light yet, but I do feel like we should just do it and put it on the website and see if they notice.
I know, I wrote a whole song and now I can't remember it. Write these ideas down.
I just wrote it down.
We got to record our ideas now.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
We've also been trying to sell a jingle for a long time to a lot of different people.
Our dream is to get hired for a branding project, and instead of presenting an identity like a logo or anything, we just say like, we do Don Draper, and instead of showing them like... a logo, it's just the jingle, and we're like, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Now close your eyes.
That's like our where we're striving for as far as creatives go.
I think it's really interesting how you guys, you're known for like some of your branding work, but it seems like you guys are really trying your hardest to kind of get other things involved, whatever kind of keeps telling that story of what it is that you're trying to help them with. I think it's incredibly fascinating.
We have adopted this, and it truly comes from like our love of Disney and like brand. I mentioned earlier like world building, but we try to do everything that we can, like not only that makes us laugh, but feel somewhat on brand. Like Lucky Pickle is this weird sort of like gritty New York kind of like, at Hershey Park, I don't know if you've ever been there, but you go in and they have like the little ride on how the chocolate's made.
Yeah.
Like
and they get a little chocolate at the end.
Yeah, that's like what we were thinking of, except with the Lucky Pickle team. It's just like Todd and I sit around, and now we have a full studio of teammates that we can collaborate with, but it really is just us throwing out ridiculous ideas that we think could be on concept, like within the concept, but that extra level is what creates like a memorable brand, and not just the logo, not just it's like everything. And we believe, again, because our parents told us we were special too much, but we believe that the creative, like the designer, can really, not just the designer, but we think that creatives and having this skill set, you can really do just about anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is the part where it's like not going to be popular, but we really think we can do everyone's job. And I know that that's stupid, and we also know that that's really dumb to say, but I feel like
dumb.
Yeah, it's very dumb.
True.
But I think it's just only that in that we mean that like, we could find something to love about that, and if we dedicated our entire time to that, we could make it successful.
I've been telling my wife this for years. I'm like, listen, if I wanted to do something, I know that I could.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, I don't know.
Yes.
So right now, lately, I don't want to get into it too much, but
Please do.
I've been super fascinated by like genetics.
Yes.
And in my head, I'm like, I could be a geneticist.
Right?
Really?
You're not that.
But here's the thing.
Like, I don't know anything right now, but I know I could.
Yeah.
Like, I'm halfway through Jurassic Park right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
A lot of insight.
Seriously.
No, but I agree. I think like
that's
kind of what we do too. We look at things, experiences, professions, people we deal with that we just are like, I think we could do that better, but we look at it through the lens of creative or design or whatever, and then we think, okay, well, how could we do that? Do we know someone that could help us? It's like if you take these problems or these things that bug you and really break it down and see it through like your own lens, especially as a designer and creative, I just feel like, oh, there's a solve out there. There's something involving our skill sets, so we can figure this out.
Yeah.
And like you with genetics, it's like you could probably, figure
like,
out how to illustrate these advanced concepts through these like really simple animations.
I guess
you know what I mean?
That's where part of my mind has gone actually.
You could just start finding these things and be like, I could tell that story better.
Yeah, I think too when where we went to school, maybe you helped us out with that. Where at Kent it was like really pushed of like designers doing like design research was kind of like a big thing that they would talk about. Thought leaders, and being like the new wave of design is going to be like not really doing graphic design, but really applying the principles and the way that you approach a project to any number of things. And so while we've not really done that, where we're just going and applying it to different things completely, which we hope to be doing eventually, I do feel like we can bring that into our branding projects, where it's like, we used to call it like lifestyle brands, that were all of these should be lifestyle brands, where it's something that people can like be a part of, not just consume. But I think we've switched it to world building, where it's, there's an entire world beyond just the logo, cool, obviously, but they're in even the brand, but the way you talk about it. That's like not a new idea, but for us it was like kind of helpful for framing things. Yeah.
So okay, you finish Lucky Pickle. How does that change things for kind of the path that you guys are going down? Like what has that project done, if anything, for you? As far as that goes.
Well, it certainly gave us confidence. A little bit more confident, which I don't know if we needed honestly, but no, I mean, like, it was on brand new, which was awesome, and that led to some new clients reaching out from other sort of spaces. But I think it just validated our.
Yeah, I think it did more for us like personally than it did as the business. I think of like we felt like we hit a sweet spot with it. And we were just trying to bring that kind of mentality to other projects. Not everything most of what we do isn't, because it isn't right for the audience, isn't like funny or mm-hmm. fun. But some of the like fun that we had doing them, we try to bring in. I'm trying to think. I think the other thing would be that people like maybe were familiar with it if they'd been in New York, if they were in New York, were maybe familiar with Lucky Pickle, and so that was like, oh, you guys did that kind of a thing. But that only happened like once, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it reframed the way we thought about clients too, and partnerships with them. I think that our favorite part of that project was the collaboration with the client, and it was really engaging, and there was no idea too crazy or too out there. And for us, that same experience is something we want to provide to our clients, whether they're in genetics or banking, or it's like more straightforward marketing stuff, or if it's really cool little unique brands. It's like we want their time with Eric and Todd to be the best, most inspiring, fun part of their day. And selfishly, we want the same thing, because if we're all having fun, the work's going to be great, And we, Todd and I had thought like that, but we had never had that pure of an experience. And so that for us was huge.
Yeah, and it was able to, whether or not it was something that a client would look at it and say like, that's what I want, like maybe it wouldn't be, but it was an example of us being able to say like, we have fun with our projects, we're a fun space no matter what your brand is, and we get to have fun with you doing it, and that's like a break for you. And here's an example of how that has happened for a project, and we're able to say like, see, it is fun, so I think for that, it's able to like validate some of the things we talk about when we're talking to new clients.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Where can people find out more?
Oh, geez. So Eric and Todd on Instagram, ericandtodd.com.
I don't know. Is that it?
Was Todd and Eric taken?
We own toddanderic.com.
It
should redirect. Now I want to test that. Now I'm like nervous.
Yeah. Don't
where
take
else
it.
Can you find us? I think that's it.
Yeah, soon to be everywhere.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
What else do we do? That's it, really.
Yeah,
we have some exciting projects in the works.
Yeah,
but,
we do have some stuff that hopefully will come to light soon.
Follow us on Instagram. We're not very good at keeping our website up to date, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But it's a good problem to have. We're
sure.
busy, so that's good.
Awesome.
But yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
You.
All right, so that was amazing. Just a great conversation. That one of the conversations that you have, well, not everybody gets to podcast, but whenever you are sitting here, it's kind of hard to forget that you have microphones and a headset on and stuff like that. And this is one of those great conversations that we were just having a conversation about a whole bunch of things, and a whole bunch of things to recap here. I think first place I want to go here is this idea that you are hired for something, but you can also give them more. You can give them something else that you feel like is going to be beneficial to them. I think that people often forget. Well, maybe it's this. I think a lot of people think that their job is to either just design something, just make something, and then whatever the client asks for, and then they're done. And then there's certain people that understand that they're trying to do something much bigger. They're not just trying to have somebody design a brand for them. They're having somebody, they're having somebody help them make their company grow, help them make their company be noticed. And whenever you can offer other things to help them do that, not only is that you doing your job really well, but you also build some really great relationships doing those kinds of things. And I think that's something really big that they talked about. Another thing was that idea of collaboration between designer and client. And another thing that I think is super important to have. Now there's certain times where maybe you don't really get a whole lot of feedback, and then you just kind of have to make something. But this idea that client and designer can work together in a collaborative process where they're kind of going back and forth and actually taking each other's ideas and being able to work with it. I think we've all been there at some point where a client asks for something that we think is ridiculous. For instance, whenever the client asked them to use their kid's hand as part of the illustration. Now, most people probably would have been like, oh my God, like this is the worst client ever, client from hell, right? But they just laughed and they said, okay, like let's do that. It worked really well with the brand that they created. And I love the idea of embracing that, of what the client wants and the ideas that they have, and trying to make it work as best as you can, and not to be a pretentious asshole about it and to just say, okay, let's try to do that. Let's try to make that work. Yeah, another big thing is just being yourself. I think that's a really important part of any sort of creative skill set, is to find a way to be yourself. The people that aren't having fun doing this stuff, it's likely because of an imbalance of them not being able to be themselves. And I don't know, I mean, like I say that because I've been there before. Like I've been doing that kind of creative work that I didn't really like, or that I didn't want to do, but I did it because I was, supposed to be grateful that I have, a place in this industry. And people don't realize that it's possible to kind of be unhappy doing the thing that you always wanted to do. And I don't know, just finding a way to be yourself is such an important part of any job, really. And it really, to me, it seems like these guys really have it figured out, where they know who they are and they're not afraid to go down that path. And they know that it might ruffle a couple feathers, but that's just who they are. And also at the same time, they care very deeply about the work that it is that they do. And I think that's also very important. One of the big things that I was actually telling them afterwards, once we stopped, was how they've differentiated themselves from everyone else. And I think that's another part where when you find what it is that makes you kind of unique, or what it is that you want to be doing, it's really easy to kind of be yourself. And if you can be yourself, there's a good chance that nobody else is kind of branding themselves that exact same way. And as a 2+ person design team, they've found a place in this city, in Columbus, where there's at least a dozen or two kind of small design shops. They've found a place over the course of just 2.5 years that to me is incredibly impressive. And they've gotten there just basically from being themselves and doing great work at the same time. Yeah, I think that's really all I have for the recap. So again, super happy with this conversation, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, all right, love you, bye.